Okay, so in this lesson we will be looking at physical properties. And a physical property is a characteristic of a substance that can be observed and measured without changing the identity of the substance. We are going to look at two different types of physical properties, qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative physical properties are properties that can be observed and described without detailed measurements. So for example, color. So some examples of color, you see are black, white, red, blue, and if it does not have color, we call it colorless. Odor, some examples are sharp, pungent, or odorless if it does not have an odor. State, gas, liquid, or solid. Texture, some examples are fine, coarse, or smooth. Luster, this is the ability to reflect light. The ability of a substance to reflect light. Malleability is the ability of a substance to be hammered into sheets. So we could say it would be soft, pliable, or hard if it's not malleable. Clarity is the ability of a substance to allow light to penetrate. And we would say that a substance would be transparent, translucent, or opaque if it does not allow light to shine through. Taste, self-explanatory. Some examples are sweet, sour, salty, or bitter. And ductility is the ability to be pulled into wires. So in terms of states of matter, we also have changes of state that we should be aware of. So the diagram below shows this. So if a substance is changing from a gas to a liquid, we call that condensation. And if it's changing from a liquid to a gas, we call it evaporation. If a substance is changing from a liquid to a solid, we call that solidification. And if it's changing from a solid to a liquid, we call that melting. If a substance is changing from a solid to a gas, we call that sublimation. And if it's changing from a gas to a solid, we call that deposition. So those are some of the states of matter. So those are qualitative physical properties. We also have quantitative physical properties. So quantitative physical properties are properties that can be measured and assigned a particular value. So they have a number associated with them. So one is viscosity. This is a rate. So whenever it's a rate, it's a number, it's a speed. It tells you how fast something flows. So the rate of resistance to flow. So the higher the viscosity, the more it resists flowing. So molasses has a higher viscosity than water. Melting, that is when a substance changes from a solid to a liquid. So for example, ice melts at 0 degrees Celsius. The boiling point happens, it's the temperature of boiling, but it happens when a liquid becomes a gas. And for example, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. There's also solubility, and this is the ability to dissolve in another substance in grams per mil. The opposite is insoluble. So for example, salt is soluble in water. Sand, for example, would be insoluble in water. Hardness is the ability to scratch another material. So for example, diamonds are harder than glass. Conductivity is the ability of a substance to conduct heat or electricity. So for example, metal conducts heat and electricity. The unit of conductivity, which we were going to look at, is the volt. when we talk about electricity. And density is a ratio of mass to volume. So for example, the density of water is 1 gram per milliliter. So those are some physical properties of substances.